Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Gaming Daddy channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So, Battle Royale, huh? This new Division Heartland game is causing somewhat of a rift within the community, but I don't think that's going to have too much of an effect. It's quite simple. They've already stated all of their intentions for the new standalone game. They've also mentioned the fact that they're going to continue to bring content to the Division 2, at least for the year anyways. That's something that we're looking forward to for those of us who play the Division 2. So the game in the best case scenario is going to run for, a few years, if anything. Evidence to that is the Division 1 being still a live service game as we speak. This footage that you're seeing captured on the 11th of May of this year. So the Division is still, and that is the first game, it's still alive and well, still going on, and people are still playing. In fact, this survival session, I was quite shocked that there were agents even still in it on a random Tuesday, session. So that was actually quite cool. Now, this entire talk about the Battle Royale really brings some things to the forefront. And there are a lot of questions as to potentially how Red Storm is wanting to, put this in delivery mode. How are they going to deliver this particular mode to the player base? And there have been some speculation. I hear Fortnite a lot. Some people have said, oh, there's going to be another Fortnite replica, all of the above. I just saw my colleague here in the community, Daddy Fuye. He just made a video about Ubisoft wanting to bring more free-to-play games. That looks like something that they've been pursuing for a while. They made Hyperspace, which is supposed to be kind of like their spin on what Fortnite will look like. But, again, it's not necessarily making a lot of waves right now. I don't think they've been able to get a live service free game that has captured a lot of the gaming community at large. And they're still kind of testing out the waters and trying out what it is that they feel might work, because they have a huge library. And some of these libraries, sequels may not necessarily be the hitting factor for a lot of them. I think, yes, their success with the Division 1 compared to what they did with Division 2 probably showed them that, you have to continue to extend games like these, because the way they're developed in an open-ended nature, meaning there's a gear game, there's a narrative, there's option for continuously bringing new areas, new worlds to explore. And what Destiny 2 is actually doing is, showing they're setting the pace. They're actually telling everybody that this is a viable option if you actually do it well. This is something that you get to see in business. If somebody's doing something and they're succeeding, in many cases, other people kind of want to try it out and see if they can actually get in there. Which brings me to what I believe strongly might be something that presents a close scenario to what I believe that Red Storm is going to bring to the table. So with Heartland, I think there has to be, in some instance, a narrative perspective to the game. There has to be some layout that says, this is why you're here. The Division has always been a narrative-based concept. It's a concept where there's so much around the story. As much as the story may not be the most impressive, there's no doubt that Ubisoft wants to emphasize this story very strongly in every avenue. They're actually bringing out an original Division book. Others have been written, no doubt, and they've had kind of like that silent blessing of Ubisoft, but they're working on a book right now which will be very narrative driven. There's also a movie in the works with Netflix which will also be narrative driven. So I don't think it's rocket science to kind of say, well, it seems that Heartland is going to follow this mode. So you're not going to have kind of that pure Fortnite scenario if you were to look at it that way. I think this might be a thing where we actually start looking at the day before. Remember that game that had the trailers and had the previews and had a lot of the different gameplay loops showing us their Last of Us-esque Division style, survival spin or take on a video game. And that game really did catch a lot of attention of Division agents, especially with the refrigerator or the vending machine soda place, which is basically, that was a straight up, call out to the Division community saying, hey, we got something that's reminding you of, a mode that we understand a lot of people kind of did like. And so that's exactly what I think we might see some allusion to with Heartland. And so even though there might be the Battle Royale, aspect of things, you still have to frame it within that nature of a survival based, concept that has different elements or maybe different modes that will allow for a lot of longevity within the game and within the universe and the world that is being built. The day before really did highlight that. It really did show that there are a lot of people who enjoy the survival based concept. I mean, at least who understand that, okay, this is something that they would like to engage in from time to time. And then eventually, they seem like they're actually interested in bringing it to light. I believe that Red Storm is going to leverage this. I think they will. I think they strongly will leverage some aspect of this going in. Now, if you ask me and say, why didn't they just continue to build on survival? What really changed, regarding this? Well, I really don't necessarily have any answer to that. I mean, I can only give some speculative, ideas as to why survival did not take off as much as it could. And this is something that was actually, I would say mentioned by an audience member, somebody who watches videos on this channel. And they said something along the lines of, by the time survival came along, a lot of the excitement for the game had somewhat died down compared to the initial response that the game got. By the way, if you don't know, this is Ubisoft's, The Division 1 is Ubisoft's fastest selling IP. The concept was so intriguing that people wanted to check out what the game was. But this was in the days, and this was in the dark ages when Ubisoft and all these companies marketed video games, in the way that made the games seem more than they were, when in reality the games weren't that. So that was around that time. So I think the marketing strategy of actually basically doing, partially false advertising, that's what I'm going to call it. It basically false advertising in many cases. I mean, that's exactly what that was, not even partially. I mean, we saw drones in the Division 1. We saw that nice police scene. We saw them actually do an extraction kind of in Brooklyn area underneath that big bridge. And those things didn't make their way into the game in a sense. All the extraction was relegated to the dark zone. So they were advertising one concept and then they shipped a whole different concept down the road, which is highly inexcusable if you were to ask me. Now, I didn't get to watch a lot of those previews, which is something that really was a very different perspective towards the game. So I came in with a different mindset. I was like, what is this game? I heard about the beta, and I saw some marketing about it. I didn't even watch those initial E3 trailers or whatever. I didn't even know there was a thing called E3 at that time. I didn't even care. If you ask me, what did I play? I played FIFA and that was it. And so when you kind of consider all of this stuff, I think this might be the direction that we get to go, but in a way that actually allows it for much more mainstream participation and them leveraging a lot of the excitement around, unlike, say, Survival. Survival was very niche. I mean, at first, it really drew a lot of people in, but over time, you kind of could tell that people started to kind of drift away from the mode because of different factors. You can cite, say, rewards were not as, I would say they were not proportional to the time you spent. You could cite the possibility of, say, it became monotonous because you knew where everything was if you were a very, committed player to the mode. So there was actually no curveball anymore, other than some of the things that you would expect to happen, like somebody running towards, your extraction and spawning a second hunter. That was the only unpredictable nature of it. So when you kind of consider all of these things, when you put it all together, I think this may be some of the factors that really did, put Survival in a place where it's kind of obscure. In fact, I believe that the day before they looked at Survival and went, oh, this is definitely the mode that we need to get and spring up right up front. And I think that's kind of what Red Storm might benefit from. If they don't do that and they go to Fortnite 95 to 100 and something player, which is something that, was kind of leaked. There was a listing on the Xbox store for a game that would have, player capacities of a bunch, somewhere close to 100. If they go the Fortnite route, then, I guess that would be a place where they're actually saying we're trying to appeal to a separate community. Those of you in the core Division community, enjoy what it is that's here to continue to do. And at this case, they don't really have a financial, I would say, consequence in that sense for the free-to-play game. I mean, yes, it's probably going to be a loss that they eat if they don't have the participation. But if they were to get this so-called Heartland game in a Battle Royale mode that is in quote, and I say Fortnite, I'm not saying it's going to be like Fortnite, I'm just saying this is something that's resonating within the community. If it goes that direction, then it will appeal to the people that it appeals to. I know for certain that a lot of us here in the community were probably not going to be into that. And I think Massive and Ubisoft will continue, and even, whoever the teams are working on the content that pertains to the Division right now as it stands, Division 2, they'll continue to find a way to continue to appeal to these communities and make sure that everybody is situated and sorted. Now, it's going to be a little complicated because this is something that has not necessarily been tried and fleshed out for anybody to be able to know exactly how all of this stuff is going to work. But again, I think name recognition is a big deal. And just being able to take some risks is also a big deal. Now, I want to go back a little bit on some things that I did see a long time ago. A lot of people have been talking about Red Storm being in this mix and that Red Storm being in this matrix. And, you have to really consider and go back and do a little bit of digging to see what Red Storm's contributions to the Division franchise has been, and set your expectations very, very realistic. I made a video just saying, expectations have to be tempered because, as much as people blame Massive all the time, Red Storm also has delivered some stuff that some people loved and some people didn't like. That's how the Division's always been anyways. Anytime they bring something new, some people will like some aspects of it, some people hate some aspects of it. But again, my question is, with all of this, is this Ubisoft's plan to get the Division franchise into that $1 billion, IP, just like they did with Rainbow Six? Rainbow Six pretty much exposed what exactly they could do with a game if they were to, lower the bar of entry in terms of, say, price point, and then continue to market content down the road using different elements. Is that, or could that be what, Division is trying to do? Are they trying to bring a survival scenario? I mean, and I'm not talking about this typical survival. I'm talking about like a survival game, like a game that has this really grim, unique take to it, kind of a spin-off of the narrative, and bring something that would, really compete against the day before, or maybe even squash its competition, because Red Storm has kind of, the rumor mill is that Red Storm has said before that if they did a Battle Royale game, they'll probably do a very good job. But at the end of the day, we're just going to have to wait and see. And, you might be right. Those of you who are saying, this is it gets a Fortnite feel, you might be correct, but I don't think that's the case. But again, I think a lot of things are going to dictate this. I think timing is a big deal. I think the financial incentive is always, for these companies anyways, a big deal. And, potentially trying to create a new ecosystem and reach out to a different kind of player base might also be a big deal. Also consider another thing that, regardless of the direction that they go, we, the dedicated community, will still be having, exactly the games that we have right now, which is Division 1 and Division 2, and potentially extensive content. Because if they go the Fortnite route, that's not going to appeal to the large majority of this community. The demographics is something that you have to take into consideration. Many of us do not touch Fortnite. In fact, many of us, we think the word Fortnite's a cuss word. I like Fortnite. I don't play it, but I like it because it funds Epic Games and all of their, their interesting projects that they do for indie game developers. And so, me being one, I'm happy that Fortnite's a thing that exists, but that's about it for me. So let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. I appreciate you guys for watching the video. Thank you so much for your time and audience. Leave comments and leave questions. I just want to hear kind of how the community is anticipating the content to drop very soon. And I believe it's going to be really interesting for us to see pretty much what, is on the horizon for us. Talk to you guys in another video. Thank you so much. Peace out.